Forum on cannabis, and we have a panel, and our panel is Matthew Bratcher from Kentucky NORML. He's the executive director.
Cannabis activist group NORML held a cannabis community educational forum at EKU's Perkins building to teach Kentuckians about the benefits of legalizing both recreational and medicinal marijuana. The forum also taught about the history of the plant and its many uses. We talked with several speakers on the forum about their views on marijuana reform.
Get everything you want, when you want it, and where you want it, on any mobile or digital device and viewable screen, including that big screen in your living room. Get it on the go, at night, or wherever you want it. 24/7, WBONTV.com. Learn it, love it, use it.
NORML, it is a national organization for reform of marijuana law, and essentially they do whatever needs to be done in whatever instance it may they may be called upon. Different states need different things with regard to cannabis reform. And that is where NORML steps in and with its vast resources is able to assist in any way they can. In Kentucky, well, it's really stepped up the game lately. We have a phenomenal chapter now. We have several chapters in the state of Kentucky. However, the one that I primarily work with is out of Louisville, and we are really doing all we can right now to help push legislation through. And that means hosting these events in different communities, passing out information, and making ourselves available to anyone who has questions about cannabis and cannabis reform, with the intent to get legalization at some level in the coming General Assembly. The revenue that is generated to a state enables them to be able to do a lot of programs with education and addiction that they otherwise were not able to do. So that is one facet of the marijuana industry that has certainly helped different states across the country, but specifically with regard to the opioid epidemic, we know for a fact that states that have access to marijuana do see reductions in opioid overdose death to the tune of 33% in some instances and as low as 24.8% in others. That's one of the primary components of pushing legalization. It would help across the board in so many different ways, the first of which is to be able to help thousands and thousands of people who are suffering day to day with debilitating health conditions that otherwise cannot be treated with any other medication. So first and foremost, we would like to be able to treat patients here in Kentucky and not have them continue to leave our state to go seek medical care simply because they live in a state where there's no access. You know, at this point, there are 78 million people in the country that do have access to cannabis, and what we know is that across the board, it is a better environment for people, not only from a health standpoint, but also from a financial aspect. So if we can help eradicate any part of the opioid epidemic, then we want to do that. And we know based on what we've seen in other states and in clinical data that opioid addiction certainly can be decreased through the legalization of cannabis. We hope that we can get a lot of support. We've already seen the numbers swell with regard to who is willing to come out to discuss cannabis. And we just want people to know that it is normal to be compassionate. You don't have to consume to have compassion for people and to want cannabis reform. So when General Assembly 2019 opens up, we just need people there to help us get across the finish line because we are very close.
Well, right now we're going to have two bills in session that we know of. In the House, we're going to have a medical bill. That's going to be sponsored by House Representative Jason Nemus. And in the Senate, my father, State Senator Dan Milano-Syme, is going to introduce again this session an adult responsible use bill, and that will bring the entire industry to Kentucky. Well, the farmers are starting to understand that they can bring back a viable crop, and so far this year we've had over 600 applications for hemp farms. Well, that's one thing about Kentucky. We have the best soil, we have the best water supply. The water supply is crucial when it comes to growing cannabis, and you eliminate a lot of the bleaches and everything they use in the water companies. But the water supply here and the soil is second to none in the United States, and it's been known that for the tobacco production, and it's going to be great for hemp. But, of course, hemp was a major crop in Kentucky years ago, so it's just great soil for Kentucky.
In my opinion, I think it would lower crime rates. One of the things that I saw when I was actually working on the street, marijuana, cannabis wasn't really the problem itself, the plant. It was the fact that it was illegal. And so the fact that it was illegal and it was a product that could be traded and sold on the street, and there was profit to it. That was the issue, the illegality of the marijuana itself.
Oh, well, there's various medicinal benefits to medicinal marijuana. There's actually been studies done by the National Academy of Sciences, and they found 3 different findings: that it was helpful for chronic pain, it was helpful for muscle spasms attributed to multiple sclerosis, and it was also helpful for nausea and vomiting attributed to chemotherapy. And that was, they found those findings after looking into 10,000 different studies that have been done by scientists across the nation. They narrowed down those 10,000 studies to 100 different conclusions. They were either fully supported, like those 3 findings, or had somewhat supportive information, but those 3 are solid. Well, I am a multiple sclerosis patient, and I have found it through my life that it works better than opioids and muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and such. And I think that it could really make a difference here in Kentucky, being that we do have an opioid epidemic.
With WBON TV, I'm Lance Gaither. And for more great stories such as these, go to Richmond's very own WBONTV.com.